Yeah, what's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday, December 11th. So we had an up day today in NASDAQ and S&P. Big up day in NASDAQ, got over 20,000 up in S&P. Dow was down, but as I said to you guys yesterday, today was going to be an up day. Okay, we didn't get the Dow going up. It tried, but it closed lower, but tomorrow it'll probably be up. So the leading flows are they're humongous. I mean, we're running now at a monthly leading flow rate of over 700 billion. I mean, it didn't even really come down. I said it was going to come down to reversion to the mean, which was going to be like 650 billion, 680 billion, which is still like, those are huge numbers. And now you got to consider that was like the average monthly flow. Now we're running above 700 billion. The House just passed a new defense authorization bill for 890 billion or 895 billion. I think the last NDAA was 870 billion, so that's going to be a spending increase for defense. And I always say, I told you guys there's 5 main pillars to spending. All of them are non-discretionary except for defense, which I said is always treated like a non-discretionary expenditure. Whatever the Pentagon asks for, they get. You never hear these lawmakers saying how we're going to pay for it. It angers me because, anytime they start talking about infrastructure or healthcare or anything else, education or the environment or you name it, it's always like, oh, how are we going to pay for it? But if it's defense related, it just goes through like it's a non-discretionary spending item. So that gets increased every year. It'll probably get increased again with Trump. Look, I got to tell you something that this Bitcoin stuff, to me, it's serious. And I don't necessarily mean serious in a good way. I mean, obviously, if you own Bitcoin, it's good. You're doing really, really well. Like I said, I don't own any Bitcoin, but I have Coinbase, the stock. It's a Bitcoin exchange. I bought that at the IPO whenever it was like 2 years ago or almost 3 years ago. It went down, it cratered, but now it's at all-time highs. This whole Bitcoin thing, man, I think it's serious. And the reason why I'm saying that is with Trump now saying that the United States is going to have a national Bitcoin reserve, this is just validating Bitcoin as a serious asset. I mean, if the United States of America has a national Bitcoin reserve, this validates Bitcoin as a real thing, okay? You're going to have everybody, every country, every major institution, they're going to want to hold Bitcoin just like they want to hold dollars in some form, whether it's treasuries or whatever. And that means that since Bitcoin is a finite, asset, a finite thing, name a price. I mean, put a price on it. 100,000. I said that little dip below 100,000 the last couple of days, that was a buying opportunity. I mean, just put a price on it. If Trump actually goes ahead with this, and it seems like he's serious, and don't forget, there's a side angle to this too, is the fact that a lot of his mega donors, they're all big Bitcoin owners. They all hold Bitcoin. So he's enriching them, giving back, so to speak, for how they supported him in the presidential campaign with donations. I wouldn't be surprised if his family is loaded up on Bitcoin too. There's nothing illegal about that, but I just find, in the words of Larry Summers, who I never agree with, and I happen to agree with him on this, that the whole idea is utterly crazy. That the United States the sovereign monopoly issuer of the US dollar, which is basically the underpinning of the entire global financial system, transaction, clearing, saving. Why would you create a competitive vehicle, currency, unit, whatever you want to call it, against your own currency? It's just lunacy. I don't get it. And I think that if they go ahead with this, you're going to see crazy price levels for Bitcoin. You're going to have Bitcoin billionaires that are going to rival Elon Musk in terms, and he might have a whole bunch of Bitcoin as well. I mean, you're going to see billionaires that are going to rival, Musk's wealth easily, I think. And it just, to me, it makes absolutely no sense. I don't see it coming to a very positive end. I mean, I think it's going to be extreme. If I understand this correctly, and maybe I don't, I still want to wait and see. I always say to you guys, wait and see what they do, right? They tell you what they're going to do. They end up either doing it or not doing it. Let's wait and see what he does. But if we try to think about if it happens, it has major implications for the dollar. It has major implications for U.S. treasuries. It has major implications for stocks. I mean, it could be extremely disruptive. Don't forget that Bitcoin is a finite asset, just like gold or any other commodity-based monetary system in the past. They all blew up because it's finite and you don't have enough to go around. So the system, the entire financial system, or whatever financial system is dependent on that kind of a model, it freezes up. Okay? I gave the pizza example. You order a large pie. You got 8 friends at your house. The pie comes, everybody gets a slice. 8 slices in a pie, all right? Somebody else comes, everybody might still get a slice, but they get a smaller slice, or one person doesn't get a slice. Somebody else comes, so these other people who are coming to the party, they represent how the economy naturally wants to grow. Economic activity is a growth function. I've always said that because, population increase, people want to prosper and do better in their lives. There's, so to speak, stand on the shoulders of previous generations. So they rise up. Innovation, technology, higher standard of living, more productivity, more wealth in real terms and financial terms. So like the people coming over to the party, that represents economies that want to grow. They're inherently growth functions, okay? And so you got a pie with 8 slices. Somebody comes over. So either everybody's going to get a smaller slice in order to accommodate that person, or somebody's going to get left out. Another person comes over. Maybe 2 people are going to get left out now. You see what I'm saying? This is what it is. And eventually, the whole system, it collapses on itself. It can't work. You've had the whole entire 19th century in the United States, when basically we were on some kind of metal standard, whether that was a silver standard or gold standard. Banks, there were something like 10,000 different currencies at that time because banks issued their own currencies, and they were backed, a lot of them were backed by silver. And the banks, it was fractional reserve. So for every X amount of currency the bank printed, they had a fraction of that in actual silver. And when people came to withdraw, to exchange their notes for the silver, there wasn't any silver. You had panics and busts that happened with a regularity of like every 10 years during the 19th century. And that's the thing, what I see happening with the Bitcoin, that if you're going to have global commerce based on this unit, which is finite, and it's going to be getting more and more and more expensive. In other words, harder to get for people. You're going to have the whole system freezing up. I mean, it's hard to predict at that point. You know, that's like the event horizon. It's hard to predict at that point what the consequences are going to be. But I just don't see the beauty of what we have now is that literally the demand for money is what creates the money. And money is considered like the grease that lubricates the global economic engine. If the dollar is the lubricant of the global economic engine, allows it to function because it's used in place of like barter or something finite, it's used for the accounting aspect, transaction, accounting, stuff like that. It expands with the need for it. Okay, I went through this in a video last week when I said, you know, it's us that creates the money supply, not the government. The government just responds to our need for dollars, whether that's to pay taxes, whether that's for economic activity. Okay, you go get a loan. Loans create dollars, not the bank credit itself, but the actual reserves that have to be there as a consequence of a loan being made. So that's the beauty of the system we're in right now. People don't understand this, and they scream and they cry about the government's printing money. They're printing money. We're printing money. We're printing money. Okay, it's us. But it's us coming from a good place. In other words, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, if you're an innovator, if you're a worker even, and you have your labor to offer, all of that stuff creates dollars. Okay? The government is just the entity that supplies it, but the demand, that's the first stage, the first derivative. It comes from us. So I don't know what's going to happen. I just think like right now, and Trump seems to be really, really, really in on this. I mean, he said, don't sell your Bitcoins. And he's got all those big donors that he wants to make rich. They're already rich, but they're going to get a lot richer. So if you have Bitcoin, stay with it. If you don't, try to get in some way. I mean, I have Coinbase. I'm not buying Bitcoin outright. And I don't know, how this thing is going to look. I mean, to me, potentially, I'm not saying right now, but potentially it has all the elements of the tulip craze in Holland in the 17th century. Okay, when people were buying and trading tulips, that one tulip went to these astronomical price levels. And people saw that, and then they had to buy tulips, and then other people had to buy tulips, and it just kept going. It was a spiral going up and up and up until the whole thing fell apart. I see similarities in this. Okay? I'm not saying we're there. We're probably a long way from being there. I mean, first, we got to see what Trump does with respect to this national Bitcoin reserve. He hasn't thought it through. The only part he's thought through is that, yeah, it sounds good. America's going to be the leader in Bitcoin and crypto, and all my friends are going to get really, really rich who helped me, and they deserve it because they helped me in the campaign. That's what's in his. I'm not in his head, but if I was going to kind of psychoanalyze or make a guess, I would say that's what's going on. That's what I would say. But I don't like it. There's something about it that stinks. To me, there's something about it that stinks. And I don't think we're at any point now where anything's going to blow up. But I'm looking further down the line. All right, so much for that. Right now, I mean, you basically just got to think about, I mean, the flows are going to stay where they are. They're good. They're very, very, very strong. Stocks are going to keep going up. Gold will go up for a little bit. Then you'll have these corrections in gold. And the thing to look at is, well, I'm not going to get into that. You'll have these corrections and they should be bought. We had one recently, where we were down in the low 2600s. Now we're cruising up towards, 2750, 2800. So you got to stay bullish on gold as it pulls back. I wouldn't necessarily chase it. As long as these flows remain strong. Bonds, let's talk about bonds, because there seems to be now, once again, surfacing the fear of inflation. Look, the Fed's going to cut rates on the 18th. I said that. I've been saying that. That's going to happen. I also said that they're going to pause on the 18th. And if they pause, that essentially means that they're locking in. The policy rate now is going to be 4.25 to 4.5. So you could see the 10-year yield fluctuate on both sides of that price range, that yield range. So it could come down a little bit below 4.25. It could get all the way back up above 4.5. I think next year, look, there's a lot of things, and I've been saying this about next year. I don't know. The only thing I know right now is the same thing that you guys know, is what Trump said or has been saying. We have to see what actually gets passed in Congress, what he does in terms of maybe executive orders. We have to see. China right now is talking about devaluing their currency to offset the impact of potentially of the tariffs. And so that would be a big step towards mitigating any sort of inflationary impact from the tariffs. So things like this, we still have to see. All of this stuff is just conjecture now. It's just talk. It's just, this could be a proposal. We're going to do this. Somebody might cave in on one side, like the Chinese saying, okay, you put tariffs, we're going to devalue. We don't know. All I know is that the majority of people are saying Trump's coming in, it's going to be highly inflationary. And they're talking about tariffs, mainly talking about tariffs. When I see the majority of people, many of whom have been wrong over and over and over again, and I don't think that their logic is very well thought out, when I see them all aligned in one direction, that makes me skeptical that that outcome is actually going to happen. It makes me want to bet against that, okay? So what seems to be the obvious trade right now, and I just a couple of minutes ago read an article saying, I think it was on Zero Hedge, sell bonds and buy everything else. When I see something like that, stated so emphatically, sell bonds and buy everything else. It's just, my instinct is to go against that. It just seems like, well, why? Why? That's kind of like what everyone is saying. Why do I want to do what everyone is doing? That's just me. And I don't think major fortunes or major success has come from doing the same thing that everybody else does. I could be wrong. Finally, I'll leave off with this. Warren Buffett, bless this guy, 94 years old, still active in the markets, looking at what's, interesting, what is a bargain, allocating money. And to think I have people who said to me, oh, Mike, I'm 70 years old, I'm getting out of the game. I know they're not being honest. They're saying that as a way, instead of coming to me and saying, look, I don't like your work, or I don't want to pay, or it's too time consuming. I don't like to read. I want to be told what to do. Oh, I'm 70. I can't do it anymore. You know when you stop? You stop when you're dead. That's what I think. I'm stopping when I'm dead. And apparently that's what Warren Buffett's doing too. Anyway, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe, because I noticed that the likes are going down and the subscribes are going down. I don't know. Go to my website, Pitbull Economics. It's going to be a wild freaking year, next 2 years. You want to know what to do, or you're going to be left out in the dust. All right? All right, see you tomorrow. Bye.